her. She was terrific. But anyway, so I watched the Republican debate, the so-called debate the other night. Did anyone see it?
I watched the whole thing.
You did. I actually watched it last night because of this conversation.
Well, for the purposes of people who didn't see it, basically there was a very strong interaction between Rudy Giuliani and Ron Paul, who is from Texas. And he's a very conservative congressman from Texas, this guy Ron Paul. There he is.
Yeah.
And there he is. I never heard of him before.
Yeah.
And yet I thought he was just right on the money.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Now, we have a clip, right?
Well, we don't have, the clip is too long to show.
So just
but
keep
basically, he was saying that we need to rethink what we're doing in the Middle East as policy, rather than just being angry and reacting the way that we do.
But he didn't say it that way.
Well, if you saw him on CNN later, he elaborated.
Right, but during the debate, what he had said was the reason he essentially, in so many words, said that the reason why maybe 9/11 happened was that we had been attacking them for so long.
That's not what he said.
We have been. That's what I'm saying.
That's
People
how
interpret it when he's saying.
That's how Rudy Giuliani interpreted
Well,
it.
he did say we have been there for 10 years. Didn't he say that? He said we've been there for 10
He
years.
also said, you know, that we are building bases, 14 permanent bases in Iraq now. He says, what would we say if China was doing this in our country or in the Gulf of Mexico? Would we be objecting? We need to look at what we do from the perspective of what would happen if somebody else did it to us. That's all he's saying. All he's saying is, instead of just being a knee-jerk like Rudy Giuliani, and you know, Rudy Giuliani is not the only one who can respond to 9/11. Excuse me.
But he's the one who did.
He happened to be there, so were we. We were all there also. The point is that there are other people in the country, including Ron Paul, who have another way of looking at Middle Eastern policy. And we should be listening to those people too.
Well, we are listening to them. We're hearing them loud and clear. However,
Let Elisabeth
a
speak.
couple of things struck me as interesting.
I'm the moderator.
Number one, he seemed to. You agree with him?
Follow Elisabeth.
He seemed to link 9/11 to Iraq, which you never hear. Number one, do you agree with him on that? Ron Paul. He linked the two. He linked the region. Okay, so that was something that you really don't hear ever. Especially someone who's and then also, you know, he's all about non-interference in the world. So what are we supposed to do? Apologize and never interfere again when safety is at risk?
Just rethink.
Sorry, Mussolini. Sorry, Stalin.
Don't go back to that.
Noriega.
He's talking about Democrats also. He's not just talking about Republicans.
This is not about.
He's talking about how we supported the Shah of Iran, how we have bases in Saudi Arabia, which they consider to be a holy land. That is an infraction in many ways. And so we have to take the blame and the responsibility for what we do also, and not just attack willy-nilly.
Let me tell you something. Wait a minute. He is saying, okay, because of our American policy of having people stationed all over the world and sticking our noses supposedly in other people's business, that is why these attacks have happened. They are Islamic fundamentalist extremists who have this in their hearts from the time they could hear a word that they want Americans to be killed, and if they have to die with us, they will die with us because that is better than us living here.
It's not because of our lifestyles that they hate us. It's because of our policy. It's because we have to think about how we got to where we are.
What about the policy of the Jewish population is
Don't bring that in now. That's
they equate the two. They equate the two. They want both Jews and Americans to die.
Who's
That's
they?
simple.
Who's they?
Terrorists.
Again, it's the word terrorist.
Now, so
I think we should be
Everyone
be quiet because can I just say one thing? We're all talking over each other, and Barbara doesn't like it, and she's at home watching, and she's going to call in. Right. Now, Chandra, what do you have to say about it?
Bottom line is, you have to sit back and think about how you got to a place. Because we are reacting because that's what we have to do. But in that reaction, we also have to say, wait a minute, obviously something needs to change so that we're not having to be on this defense or on this offense. So we have to take other cultures, other things into consideration. I'm not saying take terrorism into consideration, but there's a logic. Somebody has a logic.
There's no logic to terrorism in my mind.
All of these children here with this brainwashing, doing the things that they do, growing up the way they grow up, and making the decision to die for something if it didn't mean something to them. You have